Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. With lone wolf terrorist attacks happening more frequently in the greater New York City area, and active shooter incidents increasing nationwide, the need for critical incident management programs, technology, and hardware has never been more pronounced. And with us today to talk about it from a big box flagship standpoint is Pat McEvoy, Senior Director of Asset Protection Administration at Hudson's Bay Company, and Bryan Granata, Senior Director, Asset Protection. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Gus.
You know, New York City has certainly seen an increase in lone wolf attacks and driving up on curbs and through Times Square and at bus stations and such just last week. How are the stores reacting? And I understand HBC has led the way in some preventative measures. Can you talk to that and give us a feel for the total physical security standpoint?
Sure. I mean, on a daily basis, Gus, we're always looking at what's happening throughout the United States, North America, as well as the globe. You know, there's a lot of things happening from a terror-related perspective. As you mentioned, you know, within New York City recently, we've had lone wolf vehicle-borne attacks. We've had improvised explosive devices being set off in subway stations. You know, and those are the true trends that we're seeing recently. We're staying very close to those two trends as they seem to be the up-and-coming ones that are happening because they're very easy to do. You know, as you know, our flagship Fifth Avenue store is located in one of the most iconic areas of New York City. We're right across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral, right across from Rockefeller Center. You know, at the height of the holiday season, we can have hundreds of thousands of people outside of our store. You know, with that in mind, we've done some things recently over the past year as well. One of the most recent things we've done is we've installed a perimeter of 2,000-pound planters. So wood box planters filled with cement around most of our building, especially on the curb side of Fifth Avenue. That's going to designed to stop any type of vehicle-borne attacks in the city, in the sidewalk. You know, as we're unveiling a tree, hundreds of thousands of people outside of our building. Over the past year or so, we've contracted one of the prominent explosive canine contract companies that we use inside of our building and outside of our building as well. We have a heightened awareness of that during the holiday season, as well as parades, events. Every parade in New York City passes through our building. You know, we don't just focus on the holiday season. We look at those events in New York City as well, where there could be, you know, people outside watching a parade. We want to make sure that we're taking the steps to make sure that our building, inside and out, is safe to our employees and customers as well. We do use armed security personnel in our store during business hours. I have a handful of people in the building. They're specially trained individuals that we handpick. So we're handpicking them based on their experiences in their careers, whether they're actively employed or retired as well. They're designed to help us react to those situations based on their experiences, their tactical training, and so forth. So those are some of the things.
Yeah. And New York City just announced a huge program 2 weeks ago, I think it was, for what, $50 million?
Yes.
1,500 of the cement blockings and so on.
Yep.
Now, I also understand that you guys just rolled out some technology that you installed, a shooter detection program. I mean, what's the objective of the program? How does it work? How does the store respond? And why did you pick the software you selected?
So I'll actually take you through kind of what our reason for doing it first. So as Bryan mentioned, you mentioned in the beginning, you know, we're seeing trends. Active shooter, not only from a terrorist standpoint, but just from a domestic type of situation is a very big trend that's growing in the industry. So one of the things that we said is there's a lot of things we can do from a deterrent value. There's a lot of things we can do from preventative measures. But what happens if it does happen? You can't deter everything. So what we did was we used Gunshot Detection through a company called Shooter Detection Services. Shooter Detection Systems. And basically, it's a series of physical devices on the floor, as well as software at the office. The physical devices detect a gunshot in two ways. So they first hear a gunshot, and secondly, authenticate it by seeing the muzzle flash. That instantly sends the information to the head end, which resides in our command center in the basement of the New York store. There, our individuals, our detectives, investigators, our whole corporate asset protection team are also notified instantaneously that a gunshot had occurred. So what will happen is we have a map that comes up. The map will show the location of the gunshot, knowing by what detector it was indicated on. It will send an audible signal of the gunshot, and then we'll also get text and email alerts that send out to the whole distribution team. And really, that gives us kind of that instant notification. Through the product, through integration with our VMS, we also have it where when a gunshot is detected, the VMS then pulls up the nearby camera. So what we're trying to do is take the onus off of the associate, the customer, the individuals that are most immediately impacted by the incident, remove it from that situation, put it in a place where people are especially trained to handle situation, where people are, again, removed from the situation, so there's a level of probably peace of mind to a certain extent there.
And credibility.
And credibility, exactly. And then those people can then handle and make sure the assets are moved in the right locations. So again, whether it's utilizing the off-duty police force, calling 911, doing those types of situations, those people are now kind of quarterbacking it from afar. So that's worked out really well. Again, there's a lot of different products out there specifically for gunshot detection. One of the reasons we use shooter detection systems is kind of what I said earlier about that two-step authentication. So again, it's something like this. If you're going to say a gunshot is detected and you're going to have people moving and trained to roll in a certain pattern, whether it be armed police officers moving with guns drawn, doing a mass notification or anything like that, you need to make sure that's right. And for us, we could not have false alarms, especially in that location. So the two-step authentication in our minds of all the things that we looked at really was a big determining factor for shooter detection.
The muzzle flash.
That second authentication of a muzzle flash.
Right.
That again, it's very easy to integrated with the VMS very easily. So all around really good product and something simple that we put in, and then hopefully we never have to use it. But if it goes, we know we're going to be working in the right direction. So.
Now the stores know about this. The operators in the stores, the salespeople. Hey, how has the training or the drills gone with that process? I mean, how are they accepting it?
The whole store is aware of the security procedures that we put in place and the precautions that we put in place, and they all really are, happy with it and appreciate that we go to the extent of doing that for them. We don't really involve the store population in the training aspect of that, but I mean, we train on a daily basis. Every day before the store openings, the opening staff and the asset protection department, as well as the armed guards, meet prior to store opening. We talk about, events of the day. We also talk about any incidents or anything that's happened in the previous days. And it's just kind of like, we're able to talk through what have happened. And even if it wasn't in our area, even if it was, out of the country, we still talk through it to see if that happened here, what we would do. One of the best ways to train is just to talk through scenarios and prepare for that scenario if it was ever to happen in your location. We do put a big emphasis on training. We're actually coordinating with shooter detection and an outside agency as well, that we're going to do a live simulated active shooter event in the store with our armed personnel, our house staff, and we're just going to train it and use it like it's really happening. Sometimes you can talk through things and it's not effective as it really happening. So as close as we can get to it really happening, and like Pat said, we hope we never have to use it in a real life scenario, but when it does happen, it's a great thing to have because we're prepared for it.
Does it work outside the perimeter of the building, like on the sidewalk immediately around the building? So
this particular solution and the way that we deployed it is based for inside use. There are products, obviously a lot of law enforcement uses products like ShotSpotter and the like for exterior, but it's a little bit of a different type of technology, a little bit of a different application. So this is really designed specifically for in the building. However, that being said, I think that's kind of the natural next step for us. Again, as Bryan said, based on location alone in our flagship, we're worried about things happening in the building, but we're also worried about things happening immediately outside the building, and then the traffic or panic or whatever may come into the building. So again, giving us that advance notice is really key.
Do you see it applicable in some other of the bigger stores, the big box stores around the country or around North America?
So they actually started with applications in really corporate environments, which I think is probably applicable anywhere. Right. we're actually looking not only at our store locations, but our distribution center locations. For us, maybe not a terrorist target, but there's obviously the concern of a regular active shooter from a domestic situation spilling in. And in those types of environments in big open facilities, knowing where that's occurring and being able to direct your resources to it is crucial.
Right, right. Is there other specific technology that's applicable for critical incident management, whether it be lone wolf or active shooters? Is there any other technology out there that you would coordinate with it or use? Or?
So when you talk about critical incident response, I think the first thing that, before you talk about some other technologies, is really talking about mass notification. So again, what happens when this incident occurs, whatever it may be, right? How do we, and again, we're a business, right? So how do we let our senior level executives know? How do we, most importantly, how do we let the associates that may be in that facility know? So with a mass notification system, there's a ton of them out there. Can the security team identify an incident, get the information out to people that need it, and direct them to go, whether it's shelter in place or evacuate? I think that's a really big piece. From a pure technology standpoint, analytics, and everybody wants to talk about analytics. I think it's really a big area in my mind where analytics are very applicable. You talk about video analytics with object left behind or unknown incident detection, or even audio. So again, they're using audio for pure gunshot, a little bit different than what we're doing. But even kind of aggression detection, which is a big thing now, where, I should say now, it's been out for several years now, but it's continually being refined. Can we identify the incident of the people raising their voice or a start of a fight or something like that, which again notifies the right people instantaneously of something happening, so that they can put themselves and start responding quicker and mitigate the loss. That's really what it is.
Absolutely. Anything else about it? After all the hardware and software, it's then the execution. I mean, you've already talked a little bit about it from the training and the drills and stuff. How often and how extensive do you go with all of this software that you're talking about?
From a training perspective, I mean, like I said, we train every single day. We do throughout the year, we train associates on shelter in place and evacuation procedures, not just focusing on active shooter events. It's, fire and any type of emergency preparedness training that they're aware of what to do in those situations. We're going to help guide them because everyone's not going to be the same. So our responsibility is to help guide the process when it happens, but every scenario is done differently. Right. With all of the, I think one of the best things about the shooter detection though is that we're getting a live alert to it. So it's going to take over our camera system. We're going to know what's happening. We're not relying on phone calls to tell us that incident's happening. It's right in front of us when it happens. So we're able to track it in live time to see what's happening. Right, that's one of the benefits to it.
Well, in Chicago, by the way, just attributed part of their crime reduction efforts to shooter detection software. Literally in the news last week, I believe it was the week before, they attributed it to this type of software. So being able to respond quicker and coordinating it with their video cameras at traffic lights and so on was a very big point that they made. Sure. So, gentlemen, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching. And until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.